Well, 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 well. Um, this announcement from Nissan should surprise really no one. We've said this from the very start. How can this car manufacturing plant exist using just in time delivery features when there are now trades and custom borders? It literally cannot exist. Full stop. And what do we hear now? Nissan. UK factory still under threat from no deal Brexit. The UK's largest car manufacturing plant is unsustainable if the UK leaves the European Union without a trade deal, owner Nissan says. The Japanese company's global chief operating head told the BBC people had to understand that the EU was the Sunderland factory's biggest customer. Anshuli Gupta, I think that's how you say it, said that Nissan's commitment could not be maintained if there was not tariff-free EU access. Nissan has invested billions of pounds in the plant, which have over 7,000 workers. His commitments come despite the Sunderland site surviving this week's announcement on the Japanese giant's global restructuring program. He continued to say, "You know, we are the number one car maker in the UK and we want to continue. We are committed. Having said that, if we are not getting the current tariffs, it is not our intention, but the business will not be sustainable. That's what everybody has to understand." He also said that any plans for its strategic partner and the 34% shareholder Renault to take up spare capacity at Sunderland would be a matter for the French car maker. The French government has a 15% stake in Renault. And this is not the first time that Nissan has pleaded with the UK and EU negotiators to ensure that which 70% of cars manufactured at the Sunderland plant which are sold in the EU can avoid tariffs of 10% under the World Trade Organization rules, the legal default position if no deal is struck. Those talks resume this week, with the differences between the UK and EU being described on all sides as deep and wide. Last week, the EU's chief negotiator, Michel Barnier, said that the EU would consider a 2-year Brexit delay, which was rebuffed by his UK counterpart, David Frost, who told MPs that the government policies remains not to extend the transition period beyond the end of the year. Under an agreement signed last year, the UK has until the end of this month to decide if it wants to request such an extension, so the coming weeks are crucial. The comments made by Nissan may dampen hopes raised just last week when the company said that while it said it was closing plants in Spain and Indonesia, it remained committed to Sunderland. An announcement by Nissan that Renault might take that European lead in the company's global manufacturing alliance, which also includes Mitsubishi, by taking up an estimated 20% spare capacity at the Sunderland, were quashed for the foreseeable future by Renault last week, when it said that it had no current plans to move to the UK. Once again, Brexiteers were adamant that apparently once we left the EU, all these companies would come flooding over. Where are they? You are about to lose 7,000 jobs. And my response to these people who voted for leave, who work in that plant, you did it to yourselves. You were told by Nissan themselves how important it was being members of the European Union, and you ignored them. Sunderland's going to go through hard times. He's going to be very hard hit because of Brexit. You have my sympathies, but that only extends so far because at the end of the day, you did it to yourselves. He also confirmed that any decision by its partners would be a matter for them, and that no such deal had been agreed. When it comes to allocation of manufacturing, each company will take the decision based on the competitiveness of the plants. So instantly, the UK, what he's just said there, the UK becomes less competitive by not being in the EU. Nissan is a huge fan of the Sunderland plant and paid tribute to the effectiveness and hard work of the operation. But it reiterated that it was not enough to secure its long-term future if tariffs were imposed in a market which it described last week as non-core. It would so basically what Nissan also just said there is that you're a non-core market now, UK. Yeah. Oh, it's everything we said is slowly coming to pass. And once again, we reiterate the fact that when Brexit meets reality, reality always wins. It has only a 3% market share of the vehicle market in Europe. On a more encouraging note, Mr. Gupta did say that recent sales from figures from China showed that the world's biggest car market was recovering fast, but the economy was winning a market share there. But vehicles for that market were not produced in the UK. It is still possible that Renault could decide to move its production of certain vehicles to Sunderland, but it is hard to see how a company which is 15% owned by the French taxpayer would find a way to make that work where Nissan, which has been in Sunderland for over 40 years, says it cannot. Nissan's comments are a timely reminder that for many key industries, the Brexit issue, which has not been silenced by the coronavirus news, has in many ways been amplified by it. What can you say? What can you say to that? Yeah. Sorry, guys in Sunderland. Looks like you're potentially all about to lose your jobs, and I have my sympathies for it. But if you voted to leave, you did it to yourselves. I'm sorry, but you were lied to.